generations. And now, the power of two restores the one.
We got a bidet. Hey, everybody, and welcome back for another Acolyte discussion. We are here with episode 5, probably the most anticipated episode yet, based on the cliffhanger we had the week before, right? We had our big baddie introduced. We had, what, 8 Jedi chucked with a force push, and possibly in episode 5, we would find out who is this masked villain. And so we're here to talk to you about what happened in the show and to give some of our thoughts, and probably just like all the other weeks to make ourselves feel better, we'll probably theorize about some stuff as well. So this episode, well, let's just establish this first. I think it is arguable that this episode is the best episode so far. Not to mention that the bar isn't super high, but I don't know if you guys would agree with me, but I think that this one was the best one so far.
I think it was the most engaging.
Yeah, like there was the most happening on the screen at once or back to back maybe.
We weren't just walking around.
Yeah, weren't just walking around on an adventure. We actually got a little bit of conflict and some resolution, sort of.
And it was nice to have something that we hadn't seen in the trailer either, because with the first episode, there was that initial sword fight, lightsaber fight, right, between May and
And
the
Dara?
Yes, thank you. I couldn't remember her name. But we'd already seen that either from the trailer or from if you saw the 2-minute clip from when help me out here, Jeremy.
The Phantom
movie came back
Menace.
Yes. Thank you. When the Phantom Menace came back to theaters and you saw a sneak 2-minute clip or whatever of this, that was one of the things that you got to see. So it wasn't new when you watched the episode, whereas this was all new stuff.
Right. Yeah. Um, I lost my train of thought of what I was going to add on to that, but yeah, it was
Well, I
nice.
mean, we have to say like the fighting was like pretty top notch as far as like any Disney Star Wars project that we've got between the movies and the shows. This is definitely up there as far as the fight choreography. Um, that being said, I still wish they showed us more, but I just think some of the shots were a little bit lazy in this show. Like we can get into that more later, but did you have
There
something
was,
else, Jeremy?
go ahead.
So kind of piggybacking off that, I would totally agree. It's definitely some of the top notch coming from Disney. I was thinking about the fights we had from the sequel trilogy, and they're very stoic. Like when we hit, we're just bouncing off each other, kind of a thing. There really wasn't like a fluidity to it, and there wasn't intenseness to it. Because, a lot of people even talk about um, the throne room from The Last Jedi. When Rey and Kylo go after all the guards, we're like, oh, that's amazing. But I mean, even that was probably the pinnacle of the sequel trilogy with their choreography. So, and I would go on to say that I think this one was a little bit better than that. Um, but I did have my thing, and now I lost it again. I don't. Maybe it'll come back
Was
to
it
me
about
later
how
on.
they chopped it up, or maybe certain Jedi put up more of a fight, or I don't know. Sarah,
No.
did you have something else to add as well?
I was just gonna say, I feel like the fighting was more intense, and I'm gonna jump to it anyway. I know we're gonna go through the episode and whatnot, but we're kind of already on the topic. There was some very, oh my gosh, she went there with some of the deaths. That's been a big complaint with us so far this season is that a lot of deaths have been off screen or just piddly, like Torben with the poison, like we didn't see anything with that. However, there was one part of this fight that I was just like, what are you doing? And it was when Jackie was fighting and she did like this weird little hop skip on one of the stones to like kind of do a 360 spin. It just reminded me of The Office when Michael Scott was parkour, parkour, and jumping all over, just being ridiculous on purpose. So most of it I did not have an issue with, but there was that one particular little, let me jump on this rock and turn around that I'm just like, what was the point of that? That seems so silly.
Yeah,
So
I think I know exactly the move you're talking about. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I was gonna say I do want to talk about some of these things more in detail, like in sequential order, but I will say one of the things that I read online, and it's just a point of view of what was going on with Jackie, is that Jackie was basically, as the fight was going on, she was kind of building more and more frustration slash anger. Like we could even hear her starting to yell at some points. And I kind of wonder if those big moves was just her attempt at trying to be bigger and better and more fierce towards the other guy. Because essentially, the when she like let out a huge cry out in anger, that's like when she actually lost. When she went to go do something and she was like, ah, and went to like swipe really hard at him is when he stopped it and then had the second one. It was almost like she was going so big, she was almost blinding herself in her own fight, if that makes sense. She was losing sight of her teachings.
Yes and no. It was kind of a cheap shot, right? 'Cause it's like it's one lightsaber, but it detaches into two. So, and it looked like they go the same direction. And I don't know, the way that it looked to me.
I think you're right.
So even the move that he kills her with, it's kind of weird, right? Because if he's blocking up here, I don't know. I would think the part that detaches would be the shorter part, right? But the shorter part would have to be on the bottom if he's still blocking Jackie, right? He'd have to be like holding the block up here, then he'd have to like detach to quick little. So, anyways, I'm not here to get into the choreography nitty gritty, but
You want to
um,
jump in the episode?
Yeah,
yeah.
we can let's go ahead and start the episode. So we start our episode off basically with who other than Osha, right? Because it's centered around these two twins. And Osha is basically waking up from being blasted by the force push. And for some reason, she is an absolute klutz and trips over everything. And so she trips right away and is falls right into the like orangish stuff on the ground. And we'd find out that what she tripped over was basically a dead Jedi. And so she sees in terror this Jedi that's dead, and when she gets up, we start to see the battle unfold. I kid you not, though, Austin, when we started watching this and I saw that there was a dead Jedi on the ground, I looked at Sarah and I went, no. Was Austin right that they were not going to show some of this? Like, is the fight off screen? But no, we jumped right into the fight. Um, so the first part of the fight was kind of hard to see. It was not the best first impression, I don't think. Uh, it was good that they opened up things a little bit. They were behind some trees. We saw the lightsabers flashing. Uh, First impression of this, I forget what they call him specifically, the stranger, I think. Uh, my first impression of his fighting style was like if two kids were about to have a lightsaber fight and they were like, yo, the rules are no whipping, and then he just starts whipping. And so I think that took the Jedi off guard of how fast he was. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. I felt like his moves weren't necessarily uh I don't know if I'd say they seem more improvised than as if he were to practice. I don't know how to put it into words. The
Wait,
Jedi, like they go through all these trainings of, this move and this move of how to block. His just kind of seemed like he was making it up on the spot just to be fast and killing people.
Yor does say later when he's talking to Osha that this guy's fighting style is unlike anything he's seen before, and that he's not playing by the rules of combat that they're
Right.
used to. I didn't pick up on this, but like I didn't notice it with my eyes, but I heard Yord say that.
Yeah, he to me is just he views himself as like, I don't know, better than them. Like like I don't even know what I'm trying to say here, but he just kind of puts them down like they're nothing, right? Like he's just dispatching wild animals. That's kind of how he feels about it. Um, so yeah, he's not like slaying them like a foe with honor, like a Jedi, you know. He's putting them down like the dogs they are. Like he's just slashing them up. Um, Kind of what you were saying about the beginning scene there. I actually did really like that scene, like where Osha trips and then sees the dead body. Like that's just a neat reveal. Had we not known that this was an incredibly dangerous situation, it would have hit a little harder. Or like if they had just shot it a little bit better, like to show Osha's perspective. Like she wakes up, she's very disoriented. And then you kind of hear like the lightsabers in the background, like way off in the distance, and you see a little bit of lights in the distance. But I wish her view would have been like focused on that. So it made sense that she doesn't have object permanence and like trips on something right in front of her face. That just would have like I would have liked that a little bit more if she was like laser focused and then tripped, but that's just a small nitpick. But yeah, like you were saying, they show some of this like through some trees, behind some rocks, so you don't see everything at first. So I was actually not super impressed with the beginning of this fight, but they do definitely work up the momentum of the fights and the kills really for these Jedi.
Yeah,
They the first ones don't last very long.
arguably some of the most graphic kills we've ever seen in Star Wars. Which is also kind of weird too, because there's some. So speaking of which, the beginning, we see the guy that kind of looks like a Plo Koon type character. He gets stabbed in the back, and then there's this move where the stranger stabs a Jedi and then uses force pull to pull another Jedi into the sword, and then the camera shifts and we go off screen, and at least based on the height of the saber, I imagine he decapitated them and that's why it was off screen.
Oh,
But
like it would have just slipped down and it would have sliced him up.
what?
Like the lightsaber would have just sliced him in half from there up.
No, like it looked like he pulled it out and then he swiped.
Oh.
And we've seen decapitations before in Star Wars, so that's why I was kind of like, I guess we can draw a line there, I suppose, but with all the stuff we saw later on, I feel like some of that stuff was worse than what we've seen in Star Wars before. But
They were just too excited to show you those trees cut in half.
they
They
Yeah,
did.
focused on it for like
I
two whole
think
minutes.
I think it's a couple things. Like I think they did want the kills to escalate as the episode went on. So I think that's one way that they kind of like made those not seem as bad. But yeah, it was a way for them to like show it off screen, sort of. To me, that scene that you're talking about, yeah, he pulls him onto the lightsaber, at which point those two Jedi are dead. So it doesn't matter what his next swipe is. To me, I thought he just pulled the lightsaber out at that point. Maybe like swiped it to the right, at which point it'd be cutting through them. But yeah, it happens like behind a tree. My only other thing I would say about this beginning part is there's a little bit of messiness, right? When you have like a 1v5, you don't see Jackie and Soul in this area. They don't give you any reason for that. They just got pushed further back for some reason, or they are not conscious yet.
Well, Jackie's dealing with May. I don't know what Soul's excuse is.
Yeah. So if you kind of like track some of the lightsabers, like there's some points where I'm like, okay, I see the green guy, going for a swing, and then he gets like kicked back or something, and then I'm watching the stranger take out like four other people, and then I never see the green lightsaber come in on the right side of the frame, like for like, I don't know, quite a delay, basically, is what I'm saying. So just with the lightsaber fighting, with this many opponents, it should be pretty nonstop. Like this guy should be kind of spinning around and um but we haven't even brought up his cool
His armor.
armor, his yeah, extra equipment that he brought along.
Yeah,
He's
so
actually That's a big reason he's able to kind of dispatch these Jedi so easily is that he has a huge advantage.
yeah, and I think this is probably one of those things that was debated a lot, on social media is our villain here is basically headbutting the sabers and it's deactivating them, like it's shorting them out for I don't know, 60 seconds or so. And when I saw it, I was like, whoa, okay. But then I thought about it, I was like, but how? I want to know why this thing is happening. And supposedly this is something that is in Star Wars. I forget I think they called it cortosis.
Yeah, I think so.
It's a type of metal that,
In the
um,
show, but that's what it's like in the Star Wars lore, that's the name of it.
right. Yeah. And so it's a real thing. So it's not like, the showrunners went off and created something and people can be mad about it. It is Star Wars. So I thought that was cool of them to do.
Hmm. I didn't like it just because we didn't have any explanation for it. It came out of nowhere, and I didn't like the headbutt thing.
But
Um,
the Jedi would not have known about it either, so they would have been equally as surprised. It's kind of like we're in their shoes.
yeah, no, and I think it's supposed to be like a really rare material, so it kind of, it's not the weirdest thing that we haven't seen it come up before. But just no explanation was kind of weird. Um,
It is one of those things like some of our friends uh, get very upset when they watch something in Star Wars and then they're like, it makes no sense. And then I walk up to them and I'm like, but this is what's in the literature. And they're like, I shouldn't have to read literature to understand the shows, which, yes and no. But I mean, I still thought it was kind of neat. Uh, per
yeah, and we've seen material that like is lightsaber resistant, just nothing that like shorts it out like that.
right. Because then it begs the question, why didn't like Darth Vader have some of that stuff? Or maybe he did. Maybe I don't know. 'Cause I have not read all of the stuff. Or why didn't we see more of that later on in Star Wars? But at the same time, if this is something that is canonized, if that's even a word, after the six movies are made, well, then we can't, the people that decide to make the choice that that is going to be a thing, they're the ones that need to answer to that. Um,
Well,
but
and maybe this used to be a thing because we're so far in the past that once the Jedi found out about it, they reworked their lightsabers to not have that be an issue anymore.
maybe. I don't know. I haven't read the stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but going back to the sequence of the episode, so yeah, we have that little massacre there in the beginning. We do have some stuff with Osha and May. So May is trying to. They got a whole bunch of stuff going on in this episode, but basically May ends up going up against Jackie. Jackie wants to arrest her. She's actually getting the handcuffs on May, saying, you're under arrest for these murders. And just an episode ago, May was willing to, turn herself in. But then now that she, was actually handcuffed at one point, she wants to try to impress her former master or something. She changed her mind.
I think it's because she realized that her master was here. If I could turn myself in and not have to deal with him, that's one thing. But now he's here and I'm more scared of him than I am of the Jedi.
Yeah, it seemed like her plan was turn herself into the Jedi, and then as long as she's with them, she'll be safe. I think that was kind of the idea. Um, but yeah, she's very flip-floppy. Uh, the what was I gonna say? Yeah, we do see May grab Kalnaka's lightsaber. That comes up later. Other than that, I just thought it was a little bit odd that this is going on while there's a bunch of murder happening. It was just a little bit weird that she was still trying to make the arrest, to me.
I
But
would
that was what
say
they came here for.
right. That's what I was gonna say. I would say yes and no because like the whole point of being there was May, and if they leave without May, then it was all for nothing, and they all got slaughtered. Um, so I mean, I think out of the people in the group, arguably Jackie was the lowest on the totem pole for rankings, and so I could see why she was the one to try to handle May, while the rest of them are trying to handle the stranger. But yeah, I mean, I could see that. Why are we focusing on this when someone over there is definitely, just picking off people?
Right. And like that guy doesn't come up in their conversation at all. Like I guess maybe they don't know that they're related. Yeah, I guess maybe that's what it is because no one really knows anything about this guy. He just kind of showed up. Now
Right.
they like Soul finds out at the end that May was his pupil, but I don't know if the rest of them know that there's a connection there. But
I would say most likely not. Um,
it doesn't
so
matter anymore though.
right.
Just Soul.
So that's kind of what's going on with May. What's going on with Osha? Well, Osha is running away from the stranger, and this is kind of where we see from the trailer when he chucks his lightsaber, and then it comes back and his hand is stretched out and he catches it. But when he chucks it at her, she is saved by Soul. Soul deflects the lightsaber away, which I'm a little surprised that the lightsaber continued its like boomerang effect after being hit.
Just
I
don't think
thought,
about it.
I know, I'm just saying, I thought that would have been like smacked to the ground and then maybe a force pull or something to take it back, but that's not what happened.
Well, and
Yeah.
why was Osha trying to outrun the spinning lightsaber hurled towards her and not just duck?
Yeah, she didn't get the memo that it's in a straight line. Like Austin said, don't think about
She
it.
was in
Well,
training to be a
I think
Jedi. She
he
should
leg
know the lightsaber throws and whatnot, you know?
Why didn't
no,
she catch it? No.
he legitimately curved it like a boomerang. Like it was being, force controlled the whole way. So like that's not a natural, movement for a sword. Um, I don't think anyways, but
Yeah.
maybe you can throw a sword. Like I guess you can throw knives. Why wouldn't you be able to throw a sword?
Can you throw a
The
knife like a
weight,
boomerang?
not like a boomerang, I don't think, but
Does the blade of a lightsaber weigh anything?
that's a good question. Yeah, what's the weight like compared to hilt, blade? Where's the balance in the saber?
That's a great question. Um, yeah, Soul knocks that lightsaber down, and then this basically is what starts the sequence between Soul and the stranger, and they have their whole um they have a bit of a back and forth. They have some of this like couple strike type thing, and they're talking to each other. And the stranger is, trying to provoke Soul a little bit. He's saying things like, "Do you remember me?" And uh, "I've given into my darkness. Why haven't you?" Kind of a thing. And basically, they have some battling going on back and forth. Eventually. Jackie arrives, and Jackie is the one that comes in and knocks the helmet right off. She comes in and bops him right on the face, because uh, Saul isn't able to do it. But when Jackie knocks it off, I thought we were going to see his face right away, and we don't. They are very, very careful to not show what his face is, even though the helmet's off. And essentially what happens here, we get Jackie, really trying to push to, be the one to take out this dude. And essentially, like we were talking about earlier with the fight, this is where the stranger blocks, takes out that second saber, and then does a three stab on her gut, and she is definitely dead. And I kind of thought this was interesting just because, we've seen a lot of in the past before this show that these stabbings don't do a whole lot. And then when she got stabbed 3 times, I was like, yeah, she's gone. Which is surprising too, because I did not think Jackie was going to go down. But there's a lot of these main characters that, we're getting red weddinged over here.
I got two things for this. One is for some reason she's still credited as being part of the next three episodes, so I don't know what all that's about. I can't imagine it really being a flashback in all three episodes. It seems kind of weird. I know it's not super reliable, but it's still strange that it says that because for Osha slash May, it says May, but then Osha is rumored. So like, I don't know why they're not saying rumored for some of these other things if they're not really sure what's going on. But the other thing that I was going to say, uh, the stranger, or by now we know him as Chimere, right? His dialogue for the bulk of the episode, I think all except for his very last line at the end of the episode, that was the only thing I didn't really like. But the rest of it, I thought was really good. It was creepy. It was intense. It was thought-provoking. It just
It was
you look at him
taunting.
and you look at him in my background, you see the smile of his mask and stuff, and it just I feel like it's a really good match to his actual character. He seems creepy. And I haven't really felt that with any of the Sith that we've seen before. They've all seemed mean
Eh,
or like powerful, but not creepy like that.
So that rolls us right into our next topic question. Um, so when so we finally see his face, we find out it's Chimere. He's talking to Soul, and he says, "You Jedi." Um, basic. I don't want to paraphrase because I don't
Soul
want
says,
people
"What
to.
are you?" And he says, "You Jedi would probably call me Sith."
Thank you. So a lot of people are saying that is him declaring that he is a Sith. What do you guys think? Does that mean that he is a Sith?
Yeah, of course.
I don't think so. The
Austin, are you
reason,
being sarcastic?
No, no, I think like what else would he be? Like he's a guy carrying a red lightsaber, wielding the Force, like killing Jedi. He is a Sith.
I feel like by him saying you Jedi would call me this, it's him saying I'm not this, but you can call me this because I don't want to reveal what I am.
I'm just saying, like, I can dress myself up and look like a professional baseball player, but I have never been a professional baseball player. Um, I, so here's the other thing too. I was trying to think about this in terms of like the Jedi. Okay. So the Jedi is like a religion, right? It's a way of being a person. It's not just because you have the Force and you have a lightsaber, you are a Jedi. Like you have to be a part of this group. And the reason why I say that is because our clear-cut example from Disney and a character that is loved by everybody, Ahsoka Tano. She left the Order. She has the Force abilities. She has a lightsaber. She says, I am not a Jedi because she's not part of that group.
Yeah, not in name. She's not a Jedi, but in everything that she does, she is a Jedi. More of like a Qui-Gon Jinn Jedi though, where she's sort of in the middle, not really pulled too far to one side. She's more of in the balance, at least where we last see her. But th yeah, this guy, I don't remember exactly where we were going with that, but I was gonna say one thing about you guys were saying how creepy this guy is and his movements and everything. He's very like subtle in his movements. And his lines are very they're like they're very short. They don't give you a lot. And like Sarah was saying, they can be interpreted like a couple different ways. He is kind of poking at this past that Soul has that we still
Yeah.
don't know. So that's kind of like the last big mystery, I guess. Well, there's a lot we don't know about OSHA
I
and May. I could complain about that a lot, but I won't. Um,
I'm not gonna lie. I want to say that they are brothers. And the reason why I'm gonna say that is because I think they've had this whole sister relationship with Osha and May. I think they take it a step further, and Soul is actually this dude's brother.
yeah, like maybe he was taken from his family, and then that's all that the brother remembers is that he was taken away. That's why he doesn't remember him because he was like 4 years old when it happened.
Yeah, I mean they are trying to paint like the writers are trying to paint the Jedi as evil in this show. And so I could see that, because that's the exact same perspective as what May has basically had. The Jedi are bad because of XYZ, and part of that has to be with, taking from the family. And if she's been, with Kymir for 16 years, I'm sure he probably tried to groom that into her if he witnessed it too.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't know fully like how long they've been training, but um could be definitely a while.
That's just a number I see floating around on social media.
Right, that's like the maximum number it could be, I think, like because that's how many years it's been. Um but yeah, I mean hopefully we get a few more answers. It does seem like there's some witch connection. There's a line from Yord where he says this guy gets in your head, and then Osha says, "Oh, my mother could do that." So that's kind of a weird line. They don't really follow that up yet with anything. So that's kind of something maybe they could uh bring up later on in the next few episodes.
Yeah. Um, which is actually something that they did with the previous episode with the bugs too. Because I actually made that prediction last
Mm,
week. I said that was going to happen.
yeah, we didn't talk about the bugs yet. Is that are we getting to that in the summary? Are we pretty close?
We're getting there. So, really quick. So when Soul is fighting with uh the stranger, Yord takes Osha and they run off. Like I think Soul says like get the civilian to the shuttle or something like that, and Yord even
Going
echoes
into the
it.
ship.
Yeah. And so they're taking off. He has his lightsaber on the whole time, which I feel like you should turn it off so that's not like yellow beam, come find me kind of a thing. But they're running through the forest and eventually they get back to the area. And I think all three of us thought this was the dumbest thing in the world. The two of them get to the part of the forest where we had the bugs. And the entire group of Jedi walked together through this part of the forest. It was the one little action sequence we got last week, and they all know because Soul told them that they're attracted to light. And so when Yord has his lightsaber activated, Osha basically has to talk to him like he's never heard this before and has no idea that if his lightsaber is on, that he will not have it good when they come out to go get him. Um, the bugs are attracted to light. Why do you have your lightsaber open? Oh, I didn't know that, kind of a thing. Dumbest thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I
I've
mean,
wanted to like him this whole time. He seems like he might be cool, but just this really killed it for me. I'm like, are you stupid?
I thought he's been dumb the whole time just because they've been like it has been echoed so many times in this show. Jedi only take out their lightsabers if they're ready to kill. And he has been somebody that has whipped out his lightsaber time and time again for no reason. Even during the time when they were trying to convince Osha to go with them, I think in like episode one or two, one of them. I think it was episode two. And so I just think his character is so ridiculous. He's supposed to be, is he a Jedi Master? because he had a Padawan in the very
He
beginning.
is a knight.
He's a knight.
He has not reached the rank of master.
So he's not some ditzy little Padawan. He should be smart. He should, be one with the Force. And by the end of this episode, he was definitely one with the Force. Let's say that for sure.
Yeah, to me, Yord is very like Jedi book smart, if that makes sense. Like he's got
He's
no life skills.
he got book smart, but he don't have street smart.
Right.
Huh?
And it shows. Uh yeah, so the bugs, man, like I think he has his lightsaber out for like safety reasons. Hypothetically, if the guy were to the Sith were to catch up to them, or if there were to be another threat, I think that's why he has his lightsaber out. But yeah, like you were in that freaking scene, dude. Like, can you just shut it off? And then
It's like
May,
it's like Jurassic Park. Turn the light off.
or just keep it on and then use that to lure the bugs instead of using a flashlight. Like that was just the and then it's not even
So before
just
we
the setup for it from the
Austin,
previous episode. It's like a so much setup for like the worst payoff ever.
Austin is very anxious to get to this part. So OSHA tells Yord we got to go back. We got to go save them because something bad is gonna happen. So they run back. They get into it. Yord actually picks up the helmet and smacks the stranger's lightsaber,
Yeah,
which was
this is
pretty cool.
the second time he's come into conflict with this guy. So here's those book smarts coming up. He learned from the first time when he saw the lightsabers get deactivated. Now he knows, so he grabs the helmet that Jackie just broke off the guy's face, grabs that off the ground.
Yeah, deactivates the lightsaber, which forces them to go into hand-to-hand combat, which was pretty interesting and ultimately led to Yord getting his neck snapped. And people might hate me for this, but I did cheer. It was triumphant. That was one character I was ready to let go just because I didn't want to waste the screen time of the stupidity.
Well, after the why do I need to turn my lightsaber off? I was ready for him to go too. And another reason to cheer for this kind of thing, I suppose, if you will, Disney's showing some kahunas finally. Like they're actually doing something that's crazy and out there that's something we've been asking for a long time is to stop being so afraid of people dying and just let it happen. Like we need for the good characters to really shine through, we need some of the other characters to die. It gives them purpose.
So we
Yeah.
still have 3 episodes to go. I hope they're dead, but we still got 3 episodes.
Yeah, for sure. For like everything we've seen so far in this episode, I was wondering like where was this the previous 4 episodes? Like we got a little bit of death. Like Indara had a tiny little stab, little blood trickle. Um, Torben, there's nothing to see there. Like episode 3 is a flashback. Episode 4, we see a bug get chopped. Like where was this before?
Why
That's
did
all
it
I have
take
to
so long?
say. Yeah, like I'm not saying we need this every single episode, but like give me some tone like to work. I don't know.
This is
It's
where
just,
80% of that budget went.
right. You can't have one like huge monumental event and then have everything else just be like so boring and nothing's happening.
Yeah, a
Um,
fight sequence does not make a movie.
right.
Last
Like
Jedi.
how do they have a crazy bombastic finale after this? After having this much action in episode 5?
I'm curious too. Like,
Like
where do
I
we go from here?
I
We can't have a
my
3 episode epilogue.
yeah. My excitement for this show has oddly, after getting the best episode so far, my excitement's kind of like tanked for this because I just don't know where they're gonna go with it.
Well,
Um,
let's finish out the episode, then we can kind of make some guesses.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely,
I did
definitely.
I did feel like I felt it when Jackie died. I felt like
Yeah.
her kill was like, oh my God, I did not think that she was going to be one to go. And I think before we get too far, I think a lot of these actors should have a lot of credit for how awesome like some of this stuff was. Like I think Daphne really killed it. I think the Stranger killed it. Um, there was some Jedi that really didn't get to do many moves, but I mean they killed it because their characters are long gone. But uh, yeah, so Yord is killed. We get more discussion with uh this or Chimere and Soul. Soul actually almost kills him, almost cuts his head off. And Osha is like, "Yo, Soul, don't do it." And so he decides to not.
Because
And
he's unarmed.
right, and so this is one a part of the episode that I really don't know how to feel. So Soul, like I don't remember how they get separated, but Soul lets him go, right? He lets go of him, and Chimere doesn't have a weapon. Soul has his lightsaber ignited, and Chimere uses the Force to pick up his lightsaber, and he literally is like just walking very slowly towards Soul. And this gives Osha time to run up to him and be like, "Tag, you're it," with a flashlight. I don't understand. I feel like with how cool and um I want to say some other like really like swear words that make him sound really cool. But he was awesome, right? How did he not like hear her? Was he just so engulfed in wanting Soul? Because I wanted him to just be like ignite and stab because she was coming up on him, and then he could just finish Soul when he was after killing Osha. I thought there was an opportunity for something cool there, but
Well,
instead we get the payoff with the flashlight.
all that she has as a weapon is that stun gun, which he knows already does nothing to him. Somehow he's like immune to it. So he probably just doesn't even see her as a threat.
Right, but he was chasing her through the forest. He chucked his lightsaber at her.
Right. It's like
Yeah.
he just like forget completely forgets about her for a minute, like she's a mosquito.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, no, I kind of had the same issue you have, Jeremy. Like we just watched this guy dispatch like all 8 Jedi. Uh, he is clearly very skilled at um, having a sense for his surroundings. So it was a bit odd to me that Osha just runs up to his back and happens to quickly have a little sleight of hand to slide her little pip right in the part of his back that he can't reach because his muscles are too big.
He is jacked.
Yeah.
So she slips that light onto him because the bugs are attracted to light, which is what we predicted last week would be the
But
way that they
they
could get
waited a
away.
minute. They haven't, you know, they had to wait a second for Soul to turn off his lightsaber, for Osha to cue Soul, for Osha to run up to the Chimer, and then the bugs show up.
Yep. And then Heimer gets lifted off his feet and taken away with the bugs, and he's trying to slash at them with a lightsaber. He
Mary
can kill
Poppins,
Jedi,
but bad.
not the bugs.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, where's I going with this? So the bugs. There's just like there's no sense of urgency in that scene, and they set it up a whole episode ago, and then we have the scene where they find the bugs again with Yord, and they shut off the lightsaber, and then we have the scene where she cues Soul. Oh, I guess it's the same scene where the bugs show up, but like you don't need to point it out over and over and over again. Like your audience is not that stupid. Like if you just like drop a little thing once and then have it come up, if you did it well the first time, like people will remember it. Like it'll jog that memory. It'll like people will see that connection and you will have a better writing in your show for it. But like if you just spoon feed them everything, like, oh, here, look at these bugs. You want these bugs? Like, I don't know. It just ruined the moment for me, I guess. Like, I will say when you see all the bug pieces just like fall to the ground and you see the little pip droid fall to the ground, like that scene was pretty cool. So that payoff was nice, but just seeing him like carried away like by the moths, I think he easily could have chopped them up as fast as they were charging him.
Right. Uh, you guys want to pick up what happens next? What happens with Osha and May, and what happens to Soul?
Sarah, you want to take it? I don't know if I could even like I can say generally what happened, but the sequence of events just doesn't make any sense to me after this.
So I believe the order of things is that May comes up and OSHA stuns her with a stun gun.
Oh yeah, she set her stun to 30 seconds.
Yep. So May's stunned, but not for very long. I think it's more like 5 minutes, but it's not very long. I feel like any other time we've seen these stun guns, it's for like a few hours, and this is definitely not a few hours. Uh, OSHA's kind of asking Soul like, what was Chimere talking about? Like, what is it that you're hiding from me? And he's like, I'm so sorry. I'll tell you everything. But then he doesn't tell her anything because May wakes up, right? And May stuns Soul.
Yep.
So now Soul is knocked out for, I don't know, 5 minutes. I think he's stunned a little bit longer than May was, but
He
still
was
it's only like 10 minutes maybe.
definitely longer than her.
Stun effects may vary on target.
So then we get a little back and forth between OSHA and May, and this is really confusing from a motive standpoint because May went from I'm killing all these Jedi to I'll turn myself into the Jedi. I don't need to follow my master anymore to I'm going to try to kill a Jedi again because I'm being arrested by Jackie to OSHA, don't you remember these people have brainwashed you? Like you're all I've ever cared about. I'm back to wanting you to be in my life again. And it's to the point where they hug each other and May's actually crying. And so that's when I'm like, okay, May's crying not in OSHA's face because they're hugging, so OSHA can't see these tears. So I don't think that they're fake. Like I don't think she's just trying to get sympathy. I think she's actually crying. But it doesn't really make sense to me. And then just to make it even weirder, so OSHA's like, well, basically, I'm gonna arrest you now because you still killed all these other Jedi and stuff. Like you still have to face the music of what you've done, and we'll see how things shake out after that. Which of course May doesn't like that very much, so she winds up stunning OSHA. You want to talk about that little back and forth of what's going on with May before we finish things out? Or should we finish things out and then talk about it?
Which back and you mean what you just covered or after what?
Yeah.
I mean,
May's motives. What's going
Let's
on with
just do
her?
all of it because there's not too much more.
She cuts off her
They
hair
squabble, yeah, and then she ends up doing a force push on May, sending her flying.
on OSHA.
I'm sorry, yeah, May ends up doing a force push onto OSHA, which sends OSHA flying backward.
yep. And then she takes, I believe, Yord's lightsaber and gives herself a haircut. Now, I don't have a problem with the idea of the haircut, okay? Because I know social media hates it. What I think is interesting is that the haircut that she gives herself is exactly what OSHA's is. Because, makeup department, why would we change the haircut? And plus, she's supposed to be looking like OSHA when she's trying to be OSHA when she goes back to Seoul.
Yeah, she takes
Well,
the civilian clothes.
the
Right.
way that she leans forward to cut her hair, it seems like her bangs would be longer than the hair in the back. But it's really the opposite. Her bangs are the shortest part.
I think
Like
that's why she
don't know how
flicked her hair up.
I don't know how it's physically possible to cut your hair in that manner.
We can get a samurai sword and try it.
Sarah, it's kind of like the lightsaber throw, like just don't think about it too much.
I,
It's
I'll,
supposed to be a cool, ceremonious, like cutting my hair. At the same time, she's like assuming the identity of OSHA.
right.
It
Like I
was an
said,
interesting idea.
I don't have a problem with what happened. I just find it interesting that it was a perfect cut to match her sister. Because,
Right.
like,
Execution wise, she should have some burnt ends.
is
Like,
that how OSHA cuts her hair?
probably not. But that
Haircut
was the
aside.
easiest way for the effects department to have two characters with different hair played by the same actress and then have one of them get a haircut to then match the other version. Yeah, that was another one of my nitpicks I was going to say about this scene is that they don't do anything interesting with it. Like, I know that they're played by the same actress, everyone knows, but can you do anything interesting? Like, anytime they do this trope where it's two twins or two people played by the same actor or actress, there's always a scene where they talk to themselves or like hug themselves or something like that. And those are always difficult to do, right? Because you have to like shoot it, you know, twice and put it all together and all that stuff. And you got to have a double in there most of the time. And um, they just didn't do a single interesting thing. It was just like this, like how I am now, like over the head. Like I guess I'd have to be turned around, right? But it was just like over the shoulder cam with the other person's face, and then we switched perspective, over the shoulder cam with the other person's face, and then we switched perspective, and it was just the same shot back and forth. And it's like, can you do anything interesting with this? Like, can you zoom out or like sweep it, like put some music in there so I feel anything about these characters? Like, I
See,
don't know.
I have a bigger problem with what happens after this. So she gives herself the haircut. She puts on OSHA's clothes. She puts her clothes on OSHA, we find out later. And she goes and finds Soul, who wakes up and she says that May's gone. It's a really weird kind of little back and forth. She tries to tell him we need to get back to the ship, and she's pretending to be OSHA. I don't really believe that he wouldn't sense that it's not OSHA. I feel like he'd be able to sense the evil in May, or even just like a change in tone of like the person's essence or being. I feel like he'd be able to sense even just the smallest amount of something's not right here. Um, we I guess just to finish the episode out, because again, there's not much, right? So Basil finds the little pip piece, so he sniffs that out and he's trying to find OSHA so that he can return the rest of it to OSHA so he gets to be on the ship. And we see Kymir approach OSHA in May's clothes. So again, he doesn't sense that it's not May. He apparently thinks that it's May because he like force heals the little wound she has on her like
I,
rib.
I think he definitely knows.
You think so?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he just kill her then? Or let her be wounded? Because it wasn't a fatal wound.
He wants a new pupil. He said he wants a pupil. I think he's struck out with the first sister. I think he's gonna try his hand at this one.
Maybe. I don't think he's gonna be very successful. It seems kind of silly, but I guess you gotta start
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know why his candidates are just these two, but um maybe we'll get that answer. Maybe he had something to do with their creation.
Yeah. Well, he says some weird little line. He's talking to himself because she's still knocked out. Her stun is lasting longer than both Soul's and May's. Stun
Yep.
results may vary, as Austin said.
Yep.
That's essentially the end of the episode.
Yeah, I mean like Basil doesn't interact with anyone. Uh, so we don't really know what he's doing. Like he finds the pip droid, which would smell like OSHA, or it would smell like the stranger Keimer. So if he's going back to the ship tracking a scent, neither one of those people are on the ship.
No, but
So he
OSHA's
must just be
clothes
going back
are.
to the ship just to like leave with them.
He could
I don't
probably
know.
smell OSHA's clothes still, don't you think?
Yeah, I guess I didn't know if they did a full clothes swap or if it was more of just like the outer layer. But um yeah, those scenes are also awkward, right? Because like
Do identical twins have the same pheromones that he'd be smelling?
that's a good question. Yeah.
I mean, I was just wondering if Soul could see the thing on
Yeah,
May's
there's the
head.
mark on her head. There's yeah, we don't quite know their history like you guys were saying.
That'd be a hard
Shouldn't
one to
he be able
hide. I didn't think about
to
that.
shouldn't he be able to tell right away? I was kind of feeling the same way about it. I think he will catch on. I think it might just take him a minute, a conversation perhaps.
He's been through a lot.
Yeah, this has been a pretty big day for him.
Well,
Pretty
his deepest, darkest secrets are about to be revealed.
yeah, all the ones he's been trying to hide. Um, yeah, did you guys have anything else that we skipped over that you wanted to kind of bring up or
I'm rooting for Keimer.
He's definitely the one I'm curious to see what happens the most. Just because, I mean, we learned who he was. He wasn't killed off in this episode. I mean, clearly he's still trying to carry out his own motives. And so we have 3 episodes to go. I have absolutely no idea what they're going to be doing. Obviously, one of them is going to be Soul talking about the past, right? We still have some flashback stuff that we haven't seen. And then there's a part in the trailer where we see someone climbing either like a temple looking thing or potentially the coven place. I don't know what it was exactly, but we still haven't seen that yet. Um, but I don't know. I like Austin was saying in the beginning, I don't personally really care about May or OSHA. I feel like the identity crisis has been so bad in the show that it's hard to even care about him in that sense. It's cry wolf at this point.
yeah, like I don't feel like I can confidently say the motivations of OSHA or May or like what I don't know how they're feeling. I just don't have a connection with them like I feel like I should by episode 5.
I
With the
feel okay about OSHA, but I'm really starting to hate May. I
but
just the back and forth on what she wants and where she's going, I I understand people can change their mind. I get that. But there doesn't seem to be enough substance behind her decisions for them to make any sense at all.
mhm.
Yep. I think that's partially fault to the low minute times. Like we don't have enough time to fully expand on these characters. But
Yeah,
um,
we've gotten a little bits and pieces. Like Jeremy, you were saying you felt bad when Jackie goes down. Um, I felt similarly because I think we have a scene with that character or several scenes with that character where we see um I don't know. I
Her
don't know if we can really
wholesomeness,
say that. Yeah, she's very wholesome. She's very dedicated to her training. She really values holds the Jedi values very highly. She thinks quite highly of Master Soul. Um, I mean, we still don't have a ton about her, but we at least have a little more. So seeing her go down, it's rough. Did you guys think it was odd that she was putting up a better fight than anyone else? Granted, no one else went at it with 2 lightsabers, so that could have been a stylistic thing, where maybe that was a good technique into the stranger here.
I thought it was kind of unusual how well she was able to use two. Like if you've only ever trained with one, which is my assumption, I don't blame her for trying to battle with two, but I feel like she wouldn't really know how to handle both of them at the same time.
Yeah, there was a cool scene where it came up where she needed the second one because of his Cortosis, I think you said it was,
Yeah.
where he ends up like shorting out one of Jackie's lightsabers. So there's a part where she needs the second one. And that part was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, and then seeing her use the two lightsabers, that scene was really good too. Even if it had a little rock flip. I think stylistically it matched up really close to like what Ahsoka does in the Clone Wars. So I think for me it wasn't out of place. Um, but yeah, she gets hit with a little cheap shot, unfortunately.
Yeah. I will say also about the fight too. This is kind of what I when way back in 2005 when I saw Revenge of the Sith, this is kind of what I was hoping would be the Emperor fight. Not that he takes out three people instant like within 10 seconds and then there's a one-on-one the rest of the way. I was hoping it was going to be more like this. So it was kind of cool to see this sequence played out where it's, one verse a ton of them. I mean, dark side users are strong. I mean, they have their vulnerabilities, but they are very strong. And so it was kind of cool to see that power on display.
Yeah, the power discrepancy between these average, I heard people calling them red shirts, the Jedi. Um, but between the average Jedi here and our Sith Lord, there's definitely a huge power discrepancy. So,
Oh, I didn't answer your question about Jackie. So as far as those other Jedi that were there, like the no-name Jedi, I feel like I didn't have enough information to know what kind of ability they had. And so, like, I mean,
not much.
if they took Jackie, then they could have taken other people that were lower in the ranks too, compared to like Soul and Yord and all of them. So, I mean, they could have been disposable too. I don't know. They were definitely taken care of.
They only took people with tightly sealed lips that aren't going to let this get out.
Yeah. So thinking about where we might be going with this, because there's one other scene from the trailers that we have not seen yet, and maybe it's coming up. I don't remember what planet she was on, but we still haven't seen our green Jedi Master, maybe Knight or Master, the one with the whip lightsaber.
Mm,
We haven't seen that yet.
yep.
Do we think she arrives on the planet and uses it against uh Chimere?
It's weird. Like, do we leave this planet now? Where do we go from here? I really don't know where this show is going, but the planet, the scene from the trailer you're talking about, it does look like a pretty green forest planet. Um, to me, it looks more like I think Brendock, which is the first planet, or at least the one that May and Osha were from.
Hmm.
To me, it looks more like that planet, but it could be this one. Um, but maybe she senses something in the force, perhaps the dark side user, perhaps she senses all these Jedi getting vanquished, um, and that causes her to show up. I don't really know what would cause her to show up besides that.
My
And
only
you're
wonder would
saying,
be some sort of distress signal. But from what I've heard from people that read the books on social media, is that I guess at this point in Star Wars, they don't have the greatest distress signal technology. So because of how far away they are, it may or may not get through. With the fact that they need help, my guess is it would go through.
hmm
But yeah, so I could probably see an episode where we get another point of view of a flashback and we get the closure with that. And then I think we have a two-part finale, is my guess.
Yeah, do we know release schedule? Is this just like 111, the next few?
I think so.
Okay. Not the worst, but would be cool to get like a really long finale.
And I hope it's satisfying. The last thing that I wanted to ask you guys, just because I saw this theory floating around and I thought it may or may not like I think it would be kind of neat, but there's a lot of people that don't like it. There is the theory, and this is why I was pushing the question about the whole Sith comment. It sounds like the Kylo Ren theme is playing when Kymir shows up to go heal Osha, and like he puts I think he puts like a cl-
It was his cape.
puts his cape over her. There's like a very subtle theme music of Kylo Ren's theme, and some people are wondering, is Kymir the first Knight of Ren? Is he the one that started that cult or clan, whatever you want to call them? Any thoughts? The armor kind of looks like it could fit.
Yeah, that could be cool.
I mean, people have been calling him Smilo Ren, right?
Not
Yeah,
Disney officials.
the name fits. He definitely could be.
I feel like with his helmet being kind of similar to Kylo Ren, that maybe that's kind of their way of trying to show the evolution towards the helmet. Um, I think it's interesting. Would it save the show for me? I don't think so.
I don't think
Yeah,
I don't think it's out of reach though. It seems plausible.
yeah,
I
I don't think
mean,
we know too much about those guys in the grand scheme of things. So it'd be cool if they kind of
it's all in the books,
yeah, it'd be
unfortunately.
cool if we got a little more, got a little intro. But
Yeah, I think so too. Well, lots of things happen in this episode. Just to kind of reiterate, the action sequences were pretty great. Definitely the high point of the show so far. But unfortunately, those story elements just they're continuing to spin their tires, right? Some of the things just aren't making sense. Some of the decisions are a little wonky. And so even though we kind of get the high point with the action that we've been begging for, just isn't quite there with the story. So I don't think they're going to be able to, wrap it up within 3 episodes. I know I've seen recently that the showrunner is kind of interested in a season 2, so maybe we won't get all of our answers. Who knows? I can't imagine they would just because of what has happened with it, but anything is possible, especially with the political powers that be. But that was our discussion on the Acolyte episode 5. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Drops a like if you liked the video, and drops a comment letting us know your thoughts on the episode. Did you agree with us that you think, the action sequences were great and the story was faulty? Are you one of those people that thinks it was all amazing? Because I've seen that a lot on social media too. Or is this just kind of the same from the last 4 episodes? And then, as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.